Hello. This time around we're discussing Parsha Azinu. Parsha starts with the words of Moshe, "Listen, O heavens, and I will speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth." The way it sounds in Hebrew is as follows: Azinu hashamayim vayadabarach v'tishma haaretz imrei fi. The year is 2488, which is 3290 years ago, on the 7th of Adar, on the final day of the earthly life of Moses or Moshe. And he gathered all the Israelites around him, men, women, and children, to enter them into the covenant with God, to re-enter them into the covenant with God. By the way, in the previous Parsha, I made a mistake. I said 3090 years ago. It's 3290 years ago. It was just a slip of a tongue. So, Moshe's swan song, this Parsha is the poetic covenant, which Moshe Rabbeinu caused the Jewish people to enter on the day of his passing, and it's actually written in the Torah in columns, like a poem. It's divided in 4 sections, and the sections are as follows: God's kindness to Israel, verses 3 to 14, Israel's rebellion, verses 15 to 20, and God's vengeance against Israel, verses 21 to 35. And finally, the 4th part, God's vengeance against Israel's enemies, verses 36 to 43. Rashi's interpretation of this Parsha is as follows, or the first verse actually of the Parsha. Moshe is calling to heaven and earth to be his witnesses to this covenant. They are the Adams, the witnesses to this covenant, and they will provide rain and food if the Jews will follow the Torah law, and they will punish with drought, and earth will not produce if the Jews will not follow laws of Torah. As per Jewish law, this is exactly the same as in the Jewish court, where the witnesses are used to testify, to provide evidence, as well as they can become a tool of punishment of the guilty party. Both the Midrash and Talmud make it abundantly clear that Moshe's message in this Parsha, in this portion, is not addressed to the Jewish people which are facing him physically there and then, to this one generation of Israelites. It has got universal consequences. This is the address to all future generations of Jewish and non-Jewish people. And it affects actually the whole world. The message as well as the consequences. And this is what the next statement Moshe makes there is as follows: "My lesson will drip like rain, my word will flow like dew, like storm winds on vegetation and like raindrops on grass." What he is saying is the Torah which God is given to Israel brings light of God, of Hashem, to this world. It's like the heavens drop dew and rain to the earth to bring life. Further in this Parsha, we discover, and Moshe basically using his prophetic powers basically is telling the Jews that what will happen, that they will become idol worshippers. And by doing that, they will not hurt Hashem. Of course, he will feel the pain, but they, even more so, they will hurt themselves, first of all. And the way the Torah states that is, they are not wise people of the book, but fools who paid for all the good things Hashem has done for them with disrespect to Hashem and disrespect to Torah. Moshe reminds his people about the Nimrods and others attempting to build the Babel Tower, and the 70 languages and the 70 nations. But Hashem selected Jewish people to become the Torah servants, the nation of the priests. I call us Jews maintenance workers, the maintenance team, responsible for the material world connection to the spiritual world, and vice versa, for the connection of spiritual world to this material world. Moshe has prophesied that after Jews will settle in the land of Israel, due to abundance of food, of good life, peaceful life, they will become fat, lazy, and will forsake God. They will conduct sacrifices to the most exotic deities, which is idol worshipping. They will provoke Hashem's anger, which led to the destruction of the first and second temples. And the rest of all very sad Jewish history which we all know. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, do you realize that King Menashe, one of the Jewish kings, actually was one of the worst idol worshippers? Unfortunately, his reign was 55 years. And he even committed human sacrifices to some idols. Not to Jewish God, no, not to Hashem, to idols. And yes, eventually he suffered a lot, but this is not what it's all about. So I'm not going to waste my time on retelling you the whole story here with what happened to King Menashe. You can read about that if you are interested. Hashem says for those generations that he cannot recognize his children and their behavior. The same as a father who raised a son, paid for his very good education in private school, but the son became a criminal, a drug addict, an alcoholic. This is exactly the same feeling Hashem had for Jewish people when they did not follow the Jewish law. Hashem says that Jews will be conquered by foolish and lawless nations, by Babylonians, Assyrians, and later Romans. But God, punishing Jews, still directed his anger towards the temple stones, but he did not completely destroy the Jewish people. Oppressors of Jews continually arise, but they are eventually defeated. Unfortunately, only after they caused a lot of pain and damage to Jews, to their own nations, and to the world at large. And we have got plenty of historical examples of that. Jews survive, as is promised in the prophecy and in the song of Azinu. But in the process of rebuilding Jewish life, new enemies reappear. No one learns anything from the past history and events. Not the Jews, not the enemies. The Parsha suggests basically that this pattern continues eternally, on and on and on and on. The main question of Jewish history is how to break this cycle. And impressively, in this song Azinu, Moshe suggests that the only full-hearted return to the values and traditions of the covenant between God and Israel, a return to Torah laws, can end this vicious cycle of hate and destruction. The rebellion of Jews against God, God's covenant, brings with it the rebellion against decency and common sense. that reflects itself in the ongoing persecution of Jews from the rest of the world. Moshe makes this abundantly clear in his words in that parsha, in that portion of Torah. The truth of the matter is that even the song of Azinu is the one that Moshe commands the Jewish people to commit to memory and to regard it as the eternal witness of Jewish history. But do we remember Azinu really? How many of us, including myself, can say at least a few words of it? I just said a few words at the beginning, but it's with a lot of difficulty. Do you realize that only 2 generations ago, nearly every Jewish child knew it by heart? And we mean humanity in our time stumbled through the fog of current affairs and always looking for some new way out of our vicious cycle of problems, for new idols. Like, for instance, the idea of sharing Jerusalem with the help of United Nations, in inverted commas, or striking a deal with Iran, or our inability to pacify the, I don't know how to call him, the guy in North Korea, or the shameful same-sex marriage concept here in Australia. Moshe calls the people of Israel children who have lost my trust. This is because of the terrible tendency we have to repeat past mistakes. Trust is built on wisdom, tenacity, repeatability, reliability. The Song of Azinu provides us with the ample supply of these necessary traits that alone will guarantee our future of survival and success. I must admit, humanity is trying to go in the right direction too. For instance, implementation of Tanakh in schools in Israel is a step in the right direction. Fighting same-sex marriage, writing articles like Rabbi Gutnik written the other day on the Facebook, is the way to go. Just type in Facebook Rabbi Gutnik on same-sex marriage. Wonderful article. Say no to the nuclear deal with Iran, like Donald Trump said in United Nations a few days ago. Or presenting Israel to the world like Netanyahu has done again in United Nations a few days ago. We Jews, those of us who believe in God, and are coming to the synagogues, temples, at least every Shabbat, every Saturday, should talk to our friends, our relatives, who are not there yet, and explain to them that the future of their children and grandchildren is dependent on their return to Torah, mitzvot, and mutual love. You're not asking them to become 100% kosher overnight or to follow every halakhic law. No. But maybe we can share with others that little bit of knowledge we have got. Something along the lines of what I'm doing right now. Torah says that our life has a purpose to repair and support this world. And every Jewish and non-Jewish person is like a note in the symphony, waiting to be played. The symphony is an allegory for Hashem's project called Life on Earth, which will be fulfilled one way or the other. How can we help? How can we resolve this conundrum? It can be fulfilled through a lot of pain and suffering, yeah, for sure. But maybe, just maybe, if we all try, if we all look inside our minds, if we will find there is an ongoing talk show. Just for a few seconds, listen to your mind, and you will hear the thoughts rolling over and over and over, different thoughts. Some of them you don't know where they're coming from. It's an ongoing talk show conducted inside your mind. And yes, this is deliberately our ego doing this so that we will not hear our soul, our neshama, which has got a very weak voice, particularly if you are an atheist or don't entirely believe in God. The trick is to shut down this silly conversation in your mind. After we do that, we will start hearing our soul, our real connection to the spiritual world. We will learn that our soul, our neshama, what it really wants us to do, our purpose on this planet. How to do that? Actually, surprisingly, this is relatively simple. To shut down the talk show, all you need to do is to meditate. Start 5 minutes. Reach 18 minutes a day. That's the maximum. 5 minutes to 18 minutes a day. And you can meditate on any word you want. Just one word. Empty your mind and meditate on one word. I like the word mezuzah. It has got a nice sound. You can choose any word you want, but after you have done it a few times, you will learn to free your mind from the chatter noise and listen to your inside, where you will start hearing the sounds of your soul. What is it your soul, your neshama, your real I, not your ego, but your real I really wants? By doing the above, eventually you will start bringing to this world a much better version of yourself. And you will share this new version of yourself with everybody around you. May your neshamas or your souls help us growing through Torah and help us to fulfill our purpose in life called Derech Eretz, through the road of life, exactly as stated in Azinu. Moshe's swan song tells us how to go about our life. Amen. I will see you next time. Goodbye.